Regrets, I had a few, but did it my way. I want to share a story about my high school experience because I think that this was probably one of the biggest revelations in my life, and I still feel very strong about this, and I've been sharing it with so many people, and I literally want to share it with the world. What I want to talk about today is being determined by other people and by the system, by society, by your family. I think that we shouldn't allow this. We shouldn't allow others to determine what we are, how we act, how we live, what we can accomplish, what are our limits. All of these questions are for us to be answered. And when I was in high school, I was very depressed. I was feeling terrible 99% of the time. This system just didn't work for me. I'm a free soul. I love to be in nature. I love to create. And just being in school where everything that matters were the notes just didn't work for me. Thanks to my two best friends and two teachers, my literature and philosophy teacher, I literally managed to survive these 5 years of my life, but it was not easy. It was very, very difficult. Because I hated school so much, I didn't want to continue my education. I didn't want to go to university. I was like, why would I want to do this? But I was thinking, maybe I could do something in arts. Why not go and, study film or something like this? And I remember after I finished high school, I had to go and take my diploma from the building. And one of the teachers, he was like, so, Kaperska, what are you thinking? What are you going to do with your life? And I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe I'll go and study art. And he was like, yeah, go and study art. That's the only thing you can do. I was constantly told that I'm lazy, that I lack organization, that I have no structure. Everybody was telling me, oh, she's super sharp and smart. She can study fast, but she's lazy and she's disorganized. So when my first year at high school, I was sent to the psychologist because my German language teacher saw that I'm not doing well enough. And the psychologist gave me a book on how to schedule my week. And that's absurd when you think about it, because the problem was not whether I'm able or unable to schedule my week. How could I schedule my week if I see no meaning in going to school and I see no point in doing it? So the problem is not being or not being able to schedule my week or organize my daily life. The point is that I didn't want to do it. I didn't want to go to school. I didn't want to study in this way. So my mom was also instilling these thoughts in my head. I think that she was very much influenced by, what society says. If you're not doing well at school, it means that you're lazy and there's a problem with you. And there was a problem with me. For sure, I had a very big problem. I barely survived high school. So when high school finished, I said, okay, I'm not gonna study. That's it. That's like the end of it. And just like a smooth note, I was very curious about life. I used to read crazy amount of books in my classes because classes were boring. It was not that I lacked interest for life. I was extremely curious about life. I just didn't like the system, the school system. So I grew up with this mindset that I'm just disorganized, I'm lazy, I'm like not good for anything. So when I finished high school, thankfully, there was a family friend who spent a lot of time talking to me that I should go to university and that this is important for my path, and that university is not just about learning, but it's about establishing connections, learning about life, getting to know new people. So I chose this private university in Sofia, Bulgaria. It's called New Bulgarian University, and it's a very modern university. The system is not this stigmatic old system, but it's rather very free and very flexible. You can choose your own classes, and the building was beautiful. Like aesthetically, it's wonderful place. I still love it. So I didn't know what to study. I chose cinema and TV. It was just like literally, I was like, okay, I'll study either interior design or cinema and TV because both sound kind of fun. I have no clue what I'm going to do with this, but I chose cinema and TV just like this, out of the blue. No plan, no goal, nothing. And then I ended up falling in love with being in university and studying. It was so wonderful. These years are so fun. I met amazing people. I studied so many classes outside of cinema just because I was able to, because the university gave me this flexibility. I studied Egyptology. I studied art history. I studied mythology and religion, aesthetics, anthropology. And I was literally in love with doing this. And guess what? I was the most organized student. I was very motivated to do my homeworks. I was taking part in all kinds of activities that teachers organize outside of university. And yeah, I was just constantly pushing effort, and the results were there, and I was having so much fun doing this. And truly, this education has been one of the best decisions in my life. It made me realize that no one can determine you. No one can tell you you're disorganized, you're lazy, you're stupid, or you're whatever. At the beginning of my second year at university, I did an internship in editing for TV. 1 month and a half afterwards, I got a job there. I built a very good career in editing for television for 4 years. Meanwhile, I also worked on independent projects and my own student projects. I graduated as a film director. And after 4 years of building this career, I established my little tiny company, and I started my little tiny business, and I started working with clients from all over the world, and I built amazing relationships with some of those clients. I built a life for myself, and I'm still building it. It's not perfect. It's never going to be perfect, but I think that if my teachers are watching this video now, if they can just like comprehend how much more they could have done for me and for probably for many other students by encouragement and by understanding that we are different, we have different needs. And the fact that I am someone who's more free spirited, someone who's very creative, someone who needs freedom in order to be able to act in a responsible way. I'm very grateful for this experience because this taught me how to encourage people in their variety, in their different needs and approaches. And I know that so many things are possible beyond what we can imagine. And we should really build this healthy self-esteem in our abilities. But we also have to be curious enough to search for our own path in this life and not take someone else's idea about ourselves, because no one can tell you what's your potential. And this experience has taught me another thing, that in this world in generally, we take a lot of things for granted. We take for granted that this is how you're supposed to live. This is how society is supposed to function. There's like no other way. But just if you go back 100 years ago, you see that the world had a very different way of functioning, and it's constantly changing and evolving. And if we don't like the world as it is, it means that probably there's a better way for it to be. It would be unrealistic to wish for the world to suddenly change everything. And it would also be very selfish for us to want the world to reflect our personal vision. But I think it's very useful to be a little bit rebellious and to risk it and say, okay, I might fail, but I'm going to try and do it my way. I'm going to try and go out there and search for the places, for the institutions, for the communities, for the hobbies, places where I can feel empowered to be what feels natural and feels joyful and inspiring. Because otherwise, if we live based on a limited version of ourselves that somebody else has instilled in us, our lives are going to be miserable. And our lives are always going to be hard. My life is very challenging. And I guess we should accept this. Life is challenging. This world is very difficult, but there's still this free realm that allows us to make choices for ourselves and to live differently. So I encourage you to look for your own path and your own life. No one can tell you what's the life that suits you best. And try building this life in a kind way. When I say rebellious, I mean be a rebel against the system, against the stupid rules that you disagree with, against unhealthy opinions that people have for you. But I don't think that we should be violent towards each other. And I don't think that we should hate the world just because it doesn't match our understanding or because it's not perfect. So try to do it in a creative way, in a smart way, in a kind way, in a way that impacts other people so that they also grow into their better selves and so that they also feel supported and empowered by you. And I think that's a lovely thing. I think it's amazing when you can stand for yourself and stand for others, and it's not going to always be the case. So you also have to accept that hardship and challenges are part of life and that sometimes you still feel bad about yourself, you fail, you will fall, but it's okay. That's part of life. And if life is anyway imperfect and unrefined, why not take the risk and see if we can do it in a different way? I am really curious to hear your opinion about this and your stories. I love stories, so please feel free to share your stories if you feel like it. Please share in the comments your experiences and how you feel about this and how do you see this story that I just shared with you.